The night sky lit up as something bright cut across the stars. Jack Morgan looked up from his campfire and watched the object fall. It wasn't a normal shooting star. It was too big, too bright, and moved too slowly. "That's going to hit somewhere in my forest," he said to himself. Jack was a forest ranger in the quiet woods of Montana. Before that, he had been a combat medic in the Army. The skills he learned saving soldiers now helped him rescue lost hikers and injured animals. He put out his fire, grabbed his emergency pack, and started walking through the dark woods. The falling object had landed about 2 miles away. Jack knew these forests better than anyone. An hour later, Jack smelled something burning. Through the trees, he saw a faint blue glow. He moved carefully, one hand on his flashlight, the other on his radio. If this was a plane crash, he would need to call for help. What he found wasn't a plane. It wasn't anything made on Earth. Half buried in dirt was a small craft, about the size of a car. Its metal shell shimmered with colors Jack had never seen before. The blue light came from inside, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Hello," Jack called out. "Anyone there?" No answer came. Jack touched the craft. It was warm but not hot. Part of the side had cracked open, creating a hole big enough for him to look inside. What he saw made him forget to breathe. Lying among strange devices was a person, or something like a person. She, Jack thought it was a she, looked almost human, except for her silvery skin that seemed to glow faintly. Her large eyes were closed. Her body was small, like a teenage girl's. Strange blue blood leaked from wounds on her arm and side. Jack's training kicked in. Alien or not, someone was hurt. He squeezed through the opening. Inside, the air smelled like ozone and something sweet he couldn't name. The alien girl didn't move as he checked her pulse. He found it at her neck, faster than a human's, but steady. "Can you hear me?" he asked. Her eyes opened suddenly. They were completely purple, with no whites, and they glowed slightly in the dim light. She jerked away from him in fear, then cried out in pain. "It's okay," Jack said, holding up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien girl spoke, but the sounds made no sense to Jack. Her voice was musical, like chimes in the wind. She tried to move away again, but then clutched at her side and collapsed. Jack had a choice to make. Protocol said he should call this in immediately. A crashed alien craft would bring the military, scientists, and who knows what else. The alien would become a specimen, not a patient. But the oath he took as a medic echoed in his mind. First, do no harm. He made his decision. Carefully, he lifted the alien girl from the wreckage. She weighed less than he expected, maybe 80 pounds. Her skin felt cool to the touch, and she trembled like someone with a fever. "I'm going to help you," he said, knowing she couldn't understand. "My cabin is about 3 miles from here. I have medical supplies." The alien's eyes fluttered open again. She looked at Jack, and something in her gaze seemed to understand his intention, if not his words. As Jack carried her through the dark forest, the stars watched from above. Neither human nor alien knew it yet, but this simple act of compassion would change the course of 2 civilizations forever. Back at the crash site, a small device began to blink, sending a signal far beyond the stars. Jack's cabin came into view as the first light of dawn broke through the trees. The alien girl in his arms had fallen in and out of consciousness during their journey. Each time she woke, her purple eyes would find his, filled with fear and questions. "Almost there," Jack said, though he knew she couldn't understand. The cabin was small but had everything Jack needed: a bed, a fireplace, and most importantly, his medical supplies. He had built this place himself after leaving the Army, wanting peace after seeing too much war. He gently laid the alien on his bed. In the morning light, he could see her better. Her silver skin had patterns like faint stars. Her hair was white with blue tips, and her ears came to slight points. The blue blood from her wounds had stopped flowing, but she looked weaker. Jack cleaned her wounds with water first. The cut on her arm wasn't deep, but the one on her side worried him. Normal stitches might not work on her strange skin, but he had to try something. As he worked, the alien girl watched him. Sometimes she spoke in her musical language, but mostly she just observed. "I'm going to call you Nova," Jack said as he carefully bandaged her side. "It means new star. Seems to fit you." Nova's eyes closed again. Her breathing became shallow. Jack noticed something on her wrist that he hadn't seen before. It looked like a bracelet made of the same shimmering metal as her ship. Lights blinked on it, but they were getting dimmer. "Is this important?" he asked, touching the device. Nova's eyes flew open. She grabbed his hand and placed it on the bracelet, making urgent sounds. The device blinked faster, then slower. Something was wrong with it. Jack studied the bracelet. It seemed to be connected to Nova somehow, maybe monitoring her health or even keeping her alive. And it was failing. He needed to fix it, but how? This was alien technology, far beyond anything he understood. "I'm going to try something," he told Nova. "I don't know if it will work." Jack gathered everything electronic he could find. His radio, flashlight batteries, solar charger, and an old phone. He had always been good with machines. In the Army, he had fixed medical equipment with whatever was available. The bracelet had tiny symbols on its side. When Jack touched one, a small panel opened, revealing what looked like a power source, but it was nearly dead. Working carefully, Jack connected his solar charger to the alien device. At first, nothing happened. Then the bracelet's lights began to blink faster. Nova gasped and her eyes brightened. "It's working," Jack said, relieved. Outside, a helicopter flew overhead. Jack went to the window and saw it was military. They were looking for the crash site. His radio crackled. "Attention all Forest Service personnel. Report any unusual activity or debris from last night's meteor event. Repeat, this is a priority alert." Jack turned the radio off. What had been a simple choice to help someone was now much more complicated. He had just hidden what would be the biggest discovery in human history. If they found Nova, she would become a lab specimen, or worse. Nova seemed to sense his worry. She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin felt warmer now, healthier. "I'm not giving you up," Jack promised. "You're a person, not a thing to be studied." As the helicopter sounds faded, Jack watched Nova drift into a peaceful sleep. The bracelet on her wrist glowed steadily now. Outside his cabin, the search for the meteor was just beginning. Inside, something even more remarkable was happening. The first true friendship between human and alien. Jack didn't know what would come next, but he knew he had made the right choice. 3 days passed. Nova grew stronger. Jack stayed close to his cabin, only leaving to get food and check if anyone had found the crash site. So far, the search teams had missed it, but they were getting closer each day. On the 4th morning, Jack woke to find Nova sitting up in bed. She was drawing on paper he had left nearby. When she saw him, she held up her drawing. It showed her spacecraft. "You want to go back to your ship?" Jack asked. Nova shook her head. She pointed to a part of the ship in her drawing, then to the bracelet on her wrist. "There's something in your ship that can help you," Jack guessed. Nova nodded eagerly. Her large purple eyes seemed brighter today. They couldn't talk with words yet, but they were finding ways to communicate. Jack brought her more paper, and Nova drew pictures of stars, planets, and what looked like a map. "You're a long way from home," Jack said. Later that day, Nova surprised him. She walked slowly to where he sat and placed her hand on his forehead. A strange, warm feeling spread through Jack's mind. When she took her hand away, she spoke. "Help me." The words were stilted, as if she was just learning to speak. Jack almost fell out of his chair. "You can talk now." "Learning your words." Nova's voice had a musical quality, like bells and water. "From your mind." "You read my mind?" Jack asked, amazed. "Only words, Nova explained. She pointed to her throat. Making sounds like you. Over the next 2 days, Nova's speech improved rapidly. She explained that her people were called the Lumari. They came from a planet many light years away. Her mission was to observe Earth, but something had gone wrong. Our studies show humans are. She searched for the word, dangerous, warlike. Some are, Jack admitted, but not all of us. Yes, Nova agreed. You helped me. Not what we expected. Jack laughed. I'm full of surprises. Nova grew serious. Jack, I need to tell you something important. Her speech was almost perfect now. My ship has a device that can call my people. But if they come, they might not be friendly to humans, Jack finished for her. Nova looked down. They might see humans as a threat. They might. She paused. Want to make sure no one knows about us. Jack understood what she meant. They might want to get rid of any witnesses, like me. Nova nodded sadly. But I need their help. This device, she touched her bracelet, is failing. Your power source helps, but it's not enough. Without the right elements, I will die in 20 Earth days. Jack faced another choice. Help Nova contact her people and risk his own life. Maybe even all of humanity, or keep her hidden and watch her die. There must be another way, he said. Maybe we can fix your ship. No, Nova shook her head. It's too damaged. Jack thought for a moment. What if we just get the communication device from your ship? Could we use it to send a message without telling them about me? Nova's eyes brightened. Yes, I could ask for rescue but not mention human help. She looked at Jack with new respect. You're very clever for a primitive species. Gee, thanks, Jack said, but he was smiling. Outside, they heard helicopter blades again. The search was getting closer. We need to go tonight, Jack said, before they find your ship. Nova stood up straight, stronger than she had been days before. I'm ready. As darkness fell, they prepared to return to the crash site. What they didn't know was that someone had already found it and was waiting for them to return. The night was dark as Jack and Nova made their way through the forest. Jack knew these woods well, but tonight they seemed different, full of shadows and strange sounds. Nova moved silently beside him, her silver skin reflecting the moonlight. We're about half a mile away, Jack whispered. Stay close. Nova suddenly grabbed his arm. Someone is there, she said, her voice barely audible. At my ship. How do you know? Jack asked. Nova touched her temple. I can feel their thoughts. 3 humans. They have weapons. Jack's heart raced. Government agents, probably. They found your ship. What do we do? Nova's purple eyes were wide with worry. Jack thought quickly. There's a cave system nearby. We can hide there and figure out our next move. They changed direction, moving deeper into the forest. Jack led Nova to a small opening between rocks that most people would miss. Inside, the cave opened into a larger space. I found these caves years ago, Jack explained as he turned on a small light. Nobody else knows about them. Nova studied the cave walls with interest. Your planet is beautiful, she said, even under the ground. You still need that device from your ship, Jack said. We'll have to find a way past those agents. Nova sat down, her back against the cool stone. While we wait, I can tell you more about the stars, she offered. About what's out there. Jack nodded eagerly. I'd like that. For the next hour, Nova described a universe Jack had never imagined. Hundreds of intelligent species existed among the stars. Some were peaceful scholars, others were traders, and a few were conquerors. Humans are known to us, Nova explained. We've been watching Earth for centuries. But you've never made contact, Jack said. It wasn't a question. No, your people fight too much among yourselves. The council decided you weren't ready. Jack frowned. That's not fair. You can't judge all humans by our worst examples. Nova looked at him thoughtfully. Perhaps you're right. Meeting you has made me question many things I was taught. Jack smiled. That's how we learn, by questioning what we think we know. Outside, the sound of helicopter blades cut through the night. More searchers were coming. We need to get that device tonight, Jack said. They'll secure the area completely by morning. Nova stood up. I have an idea. I can create a distraction while you get the communication unit. It's small, about the size of your hand. What kind of distraction? Jack asked. I can make lights appear in another part of the forest. My people can control light and energy in ways yours cannot yet. Jack wasn't sure this was a good idea, but they were running out of options. Where exactly is this communication device in your ship? Nova drew a quick map in the dirt. Here, under the control panel. It's a silver box with blue lights. Okay, let's do this. They left the cave and moved carefully through the forest. When they were about a quarter mile from the crash site, Nova stopped. I will create lights to the north, she said. When the humans go to investigate, move quickly. Jack nodded. Be careful. Meet me back at the cave in 1 hour. Nova touched his hand. Jack, thank you for helping me. Few would take such risks for a stranger, especially one not of their world. That's what humans do, the good ones. Anyway, Jack replied, we help each other. Nova closed her eyes. Suddenly, bright lights appeared in the sky to the north, dancing like strange fireflies. Through the trees, Jack saw the agents at the ship look up, then grab their radios. 2 of them started running toward the lights. Now, Jack whispered and darted toward the ship. What he didn't see was the 3rd agent, hidden in the shadows, watching his approach. Jack crept toward the crashed ship, staying low in the tall grass. The strange lights Nova created flickered in the distance, keeping 2 of the agents busy. He could see the ship now, its metal skin still beautiful despite the damage. He didn't see the 3rd agent until it was almost too late. A twig snapped behind him. Jack dropped to the ground just as a flashlight beam swept over the spot where he had been standing. Who's there? A deep voice called. This is a restricted area. Jack held his breath. The agent was only a few feet away now, gun-prone. Suddenly, a bright light appeared right next to the agent. It hovered like a firefly, then zoomed away. The agent, surprised, followed it with his flashlight. Jack silently thanked Nova for the extra distraction. While the agent was looking away, Jack rolled to the ship's opening and slipped inside. The interior was dark except for a few blinking lights. Following Nova's directions, Jack found the control panel and the small silver box beneath it. It took some work, but he managed to pull it free. Just as he was about to leave, he spotted something else. A small crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. On instinct, he grabbed that too. Then he slipped back outside. The agent was still searching the area, but Jack managed to circle around him and disappear into the forest. 15 minutes later, he reached the cave where Nova was waiting. You got it. Nova's eyes lit up when she saw the device. And this, Jack showed her the crystal. I thought it might be important. Nova took the crystal gently. You found my life crystal. It contains elements from my home world. Her voice was full of emotion. With this, I can survive much longer. Jack smiled, glad he had followed his instinct. Together, they activated the communication device. Strange symbols appeared on its surface, and Nova began to input a sequence. What exactly will you tell them? Jack asked. Nova paused. I should tell them everything. About the crash, about you helping me. But, she looked troubled. But what? My people might see humans as a threat. They might. She couldn't finish. They might hurt me, Jack said. Or worse, they might decide humans are dangerous and do something about it. Nova nodded sadly. It's happened before, on other worlds. Jack sat down heavily. So we're risking a lot more than just my life. I could lie, Nova suggested. Say I survived alone. Would they believe that? No. They would scan the area and find human traces. They would know. Jack thought for a long moment. "Tell them the truth," he finally said. "Someone needs to stand up for humanity. Show them that we're worth knowing, worth saving." "Are you sure?" Nova asked. "The risk is worth taking," Jack finished. "I trust you, Nova." Nova's eyes softened. "I will do my best for you, Jack Morgan." She activated the device. A beam of light shot upward, somehow passing through the cave ceiling. Nova spoke in her musical language, occasionally glancing at Jack. When she finished, the device hummed softly. "Now we wait," she said. "They will respond soon." They didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, the device lit up with symbols. Nova read them, her expression growing serious. "What is it?" Jack asked. "They're coming," Nova said. "A ship will arrive in 6 of your hours. And they want to meet the human who saved me." Nova looked worried. "But first, they want to make sure you are not a threat." Before Jack could respond, they heard voices outside the cave. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness at the entrance. "Found something here," a voice called. "Some kind of tunnel." Jack and Nova looked at each other. They were trapped. "There's another exit," Jack whispered, pulling Nova deeper into the cave. "Follow me." They moved through a narrow passage that twisted and turned in the darkness. Jack had explored these caves many times over the years. Behind them, voices echoed as the agents entered the main cave chamber. After several minutes of crawling through tight spaces, they emerged from a small opening hidden by bushes. They were now on the other side of the hill, away from the agents. "We need to keep moving," Jack said. They ran through the forest, but they didn't get far. Bright lights suddenly surrounded them from above. Helicopters with powerful searchlights had spotted them. "Stop where you are," a voice boomed through a speaker. "You are surrounded." Jack looked at Nova. "I'm sorry," he said. Men in black uniforms appeared from all directions, guns pointed at them. One man stepped forward, older than the others with short gray hair and a stern face. "I'm Colonel Lewis," he said. "And you," he looked at Nova, "are coming with us." "She stays with me," Jack said, stepping in front of Nova. The colonel smiled without warmth. "You don't give orders here, Ranger Morgan. This is a matter of national security." Before Jack could argue, soldiers moved in. They grabbed Nova, ignoring her protests. When Jack tried to stop them, 2 men held him back. "The alien will be studied. You will be questioned," Colonel Lewis said. "Take them both." They were loaded into separate helicopters. As they flew away, Jack caught a last glimpse of Nova looking back at him, her purple eyes filled with fear. Hours later, Jack sat in a small room with white walls. They had asked him the same questions for hours. How did he find the alien? What did it tell them? Were there others? Jack told them only what he had to. He didn't mention the communication device or that Nova's people were coming. He had hidden the device in his boot before they were captured, and somehow the soldiers had missed it during their search. The door opened, and Colonel Lewis walked in. "We're not getting anywhere this way," he said, sitting across from Jack. "Let me be clear. The creature you found is not human. It's not protected by any laws. We will study it, with or without your cooperation. Her name is Nova," Jack said coldly, "and she's as much a person as you or me." Lewis leaned forward. "It's an alien, Morgan, possibly the advanced scout for an invasion." Jack laughed. "She's not a threat. She was injured and afraid. And how do you know it wasn't acting? Manipulating your sympathy." Jack had no answer for that. Could Nova have been lying all along? No. He remembered the fear in her eyes when she first woke in his cabin, the way she had gradually learned to trust him. That couldn't be faked. "Where is she now?" Jack asked. "In a secure facility. Scientists are examining it." Jack's fists clenched. "Let me see her." "That's not going to happen." A soldier burst into the room. "Sir, we're picking up something on radar. It's big, and it's coming in fast." Lewis stood quickly. Is it Russian? Chinese? No, sir. It's coming from space. Jack smiled. Her people are here. Lewis stared at him. You knew about this. Before Jack could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the building. The lights flickered, then went out completely. When they came back on seconds later, something had changed. The door to the room stood open, and no guards were visible. What's happening? Lewis demanded, reaching for his gun. Jack stood up. First contact, he said. The building shook as something massive hovered above it. Through the window, Jack saw a ship unlike anything humans had built, a great silver disk that seemed to glow from within. It was at least 3 times the size of a football field. Colonel Lewis grabbed his radio. All units, defensive positions. This is not a drill. Jack knew this could go very wrong. Wait, he shouted. If you attack them, they'll see it as proof that humans are dangerous. Let me talk to them. This is not your call, Lewis snapped. Suddenly, all electronic devices in the room went dead. A beam of blue light appeared in the center of the room, and within it, 3 figures took shape. They looked similar to Nova, but taller, with more complex patterns on their silver skin. Their eyes glowed with purple light. Lewis raised his gun, but it flew from his hand, hovering in midair. The tallest alien spoke, its voice like music. We have come for the one you call Nova. Jack stepped forward. I'm Jack Morgan. I found Nova after her ship crashed. I helped her. The aliens turned to him. Yes, Nova has told us of your kindness. It was unexpected. Where is she? Jack asked. She is safe now. We removed her from your facility moments ago. Lewis found his voice. You're trespassing on Earth territory. This is an act of war. The alien turned to him. We have no interest in war, human. We came only for Nova. Nova herself appeared in another beam of light. She looked healthier, stronger. She smiled when she saw Jack. Jack, she said, you're okay. I'm glad you are too, he replied. The tall alien spoke again. Nova has told us everything. About your compassion, your willingness to help a stranger not of your world. It paused. It is not what we expected from humans. What do you mean? Jack asked. Nova stepped forward. Jack, I need to tell you something. My crash wasn't completely accidental. Jack frowned. What? I was sent to observe how humans would react to one of us in need. Many believed you would respond with fear, with violence, that you would see me as a thing to study or use. Which is exactly what happened. Lewis interrupted, pointing at himself and his men. Not everyone, Nova said, looking at Jack. Some humans show compassion even to those who are different. The tall alien nodded. For centuries, we have watched Earth from afar. We saw your wars, your cruelty to each other and your planet. We decided humans were not ready to join the wider community of worlds. But now, Jack asked, now we have seen another side of humanity. Through you, Jack Morgan. Lewis laughed bitterly. You're judging our entire species based on one forest ranger. Sometimes, the alien said, one example is enough to show what is possible. Nova took Jack's hand. My people wish to establish peaceful contact with Earth. Not with weapons or fear, but with knowledge. Medical technology, clean energy, ways to heal your planet. And Jack will be our first ambassador, the tall alien said. Jack was stunned. Me? I'm just a ranger. Nova smiled. You are the human who showed that compassion can cross the stars. Who better? Outside, more helicopters and military vehicles were arriving. Time was short. You have a choice now, the tall alien said to Lewis. Continue on a path of fear, or take a step toward a new future. Lewis looked at Jack, then at the aliens. Finally, he lowered his hand. What choice do we have? There is always a choice, Jack said. That's what makes us human. As dawn broke over the mountains, the first official meeting between Earth and the stars began. It wasn't how anyone had imagined first contact would be, not with massive ships over cities or dramatic invasions, but with a simple act of kindness in a forest. Jack looked at Nova and smiled. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest choices.